mess.
Talking about Mel's
y'all remember
mix.
the 3 components of Mel's mix, right? You can all come in closer if you want. So our first one is the peat moss, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And then the next one is the coarse vermiculite. Comes in a big bag like this. And here's what it looks like when it's out of the bag. And this is what helps with the fluffiness of the soil mix, and then promotes the moisture. And then our compost. Now this compost pile is about a year old, and it's perfect. It's really nice right here. And we just heap it. All right, so then.
So you're using mainly raw vegetables and fruits?
Vegetables, fruits, and then all this back here, our front yard is full of leaves. We just go round and round with the riding lawnmower till we have a pile in the middle, and then we heap them all here, and we use the chopped leaves. So after we add the fruit scraps, we just put a little bit of that on and just mix it. This is our newest pile, so we've got our 1-year-old pile, and then this one we started a few months ago, so it's still not broken down yet, but I'm sure you're all familiar with having a thermometer. When we first built this pile, it was about 140 degrees, just heated right on. I just put this here to show you. If you're doing compost and you don't have a lot of green, you can get, it's a horse feed, it's alfalfa pellets. You can add that to your compost pile. And then of course,
now you said this was a year old.
This is about a year old, and I'll be using that this year.
And that one is?
This one's brand new. We just started, and this one's only about 2 months old.
Okay.
So this was just stuff we mowed up this spring. And then of course, get yourself a good fork and turn it frequently so that it can get air in there and keep being active. So when we make Mel's mix, we do equal parts, a third peat, a third coarse vermiculite. And there are different grades of vermiculite, but the coarse, Mel tells us, will last 10 years. So if we're investing in this stuff, it's not cheap, but you're not buying a rototiller or any other big equipment. So if you invest in the quality products, you're going to have it last a long time. So it's worth it. And then, so we mix, and then the next third will be our compost. And we try to do a blend of compost. So you can use your homemade compost, and then we might mix in some mushroom compost or something like this, like black cow you could mix in. You could use some worm casting and mix all your different compost together, and then you measure that 1/3 into that. So y'all remember that, right? And then I do add, this is a chicken compost that I get, and I throw in a little bit of this. It's a dried chicken compost, and it has other things in it like, oh, let me see what else is in there. It's got humic acid, some bone meal, feather meal, sulfur of potash. And so this is an organic one, and then I add some of that into my compost mix as well.
And you got that at the same place you get this?
No, this I got at Stockdale's, or actually once a year I take a trip out to Elkton, Kentucky, to a place called Deerfield Supply. That's a large Mennonite greenhouse supplier, and I pick up a lot of my stuff for that for the next year. But this you can get, the coarse vermiculite Stockdale's,
I went to Stockdale's.
Yeah. And then of course the black cow or any of the other compost, you can just go down to your local nursery, and they usually will have a nice supply. I usually try to stay away from the ones that, you can go to Home Depot or something like that and get a bag of compost for about $2, but it's got a lot of bark and sand in it. So I try to get something that actually has some compost in it. Okay, all good on that? All right, let's head over to the garden area. You look like a Southern belle.
I got me in my umbrella.
This is a coarse vermiculite here.
Ma'am?
You need an umbrella?
This is what it looks like. And then the peat moss.
Well, I've got a meeting to go to, and I thought my hair will be up.
I like to do my beds the depth of one of these, and I do not have my grids in here yet. I can see I have little popsicle sticks every foot to mark my feet, because last fall, I went ahead and did a cover crop of buckwheat followed by a cover crop of legumes, and I turned that all under, and then I put the plastic on and let it set all winter. And now it's only on here until I get ready to plant, because I'm trying to keep all the dandelion weed seeds out of my garden. So if I uncover it, oh, I got an ant nest there. You can see all of the buckwheat has broken down, and all the cover crop that I put in there has broken down really well. So I'll just put some orange oil on that, and that'll take care of that nest. But this has been sitting all winter, and this is the amazing thing about Mel's Mix. It stays like this all the time. So you can grow amazing stuff in this. Yeah, it's beautiful stuff. This bed here is probably maybe 3 years old, I'm gonna guess. Right about there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice and warm right now because I got it covered. So I just have some early things in here. This is going to be mostly a legume, and then I'll have some cucumbers or melons in here too. But so we just have a little pak choy, some spinach, beets, and carrots. But all that is early stuff, so that'll come out early. And then I'm going to do a lot of legumes and melons or cukes in here as well. And then we do different things in here. I'll put in some trellises maybe for some cukes, and I get it all planned on paper, but it's not in my head anymore. All right, underneath my beds, you can see I have a landscape fabric. This is what I use. It's a 10-year landscape fabric, so I'm thinking Mel's Mix is 10 years. I want a 10-year landscape fabric. I put that underneath, and I don't get weeds. They don't come up. That terrible Bermuda grass that's wonderful for animals but terrible for the garden does not come up through that. So that's what I use for that. Also wanted to show you some of the tools that I love. Even though I do get some weeds popping up in there because they just blow in. But this is a slide hoe that is so much easier to use with one arm than a regular hoe, and I just come through maybe once a week and just slide, and I can keep my weeds. Instead of having to weed, I cultivate. So if you do a regular cultivate, I can do all. I don't have to do much in the Mel's Mix because unless the weed seeds blow in. And the same with this. But if you just will cultivate once a week, it takes 10 or 15 minutes to do all my walkways. Everything stays clean. And there's another variety of that also is an amazing tool. And if any of you want to try any of these, you are more than welcome to just slide it around a little bit. And then this is a wonderful hand cultivator here. And this is what I'm using now that I have a broken arm. I just get down on my hands and knees and I just go through here real fast. But it also just slides beautifully. And if you can get your stuff cut off when it's small, you never have a big weeding problem. And you know, gives you a good excuse to get outside when you're weeding. So you need an excuse, but personally I don't like to do a lot of weeding. So these tools work amazing.
He does.
Now, I do want to talk about making the grids. All right. My favorite thing is to just use old Venetian blinds. And could you cut one of these in half? Just go right up the middle. Let's see how many I got here. I think I just have one. And just cut it right up the middle that way. Yep. I have tried using string, but if you want to, I don't like getting tangled up in string, and I find I don't get tangled up in this. Not a bad string. You got a great eye. You're doing great. Thank you, Glenn. Okay, now the way I anchor these, I went to a dry cleaner and they gave me a whole bunch of these. So do we have someone with a good grip? Sure. So we just have some wire cutters. And if you just want to cut a piece about like that, then I usually just use the tool and just kind of bend a little hook on the end. Yep. A little more, like a candy cane. Yep. All right, so here's how I mark my grids when I do put my grids in. So once this comes up and I'm ready to plant my other crops, I'll go ahead. So I have a popsicle stick right here. So it's going to be right about here. And I put them in. Yep. And I just anchor them. And if my thing doesn't reach all the way across, as long as I have a general idea right here and up the middle. So even if it doesn't go from, you know, wall to wall of the things, it doesn't matter. The main thing is just get it marked, because when you go to plant, if you're thinking 1 square foot, it's so easy, like we talked about in class, you know, zip, zap, bump, 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 bump. You got your 4 spots. You don't have to measure anything. Okay, any questions? Suggestions? Okay, we'll talk a little bit about the watering system. I wanted to do this now in case you're new to gardening or you just want some ideas before you get started. If we waited till July, then it's too late to put in new ideas, right? So we wanted to get started now. So this is a drip system that we put a pressure regulator on the front here when we put the hose on. And then the drip lines just have emitters all along it. And then we have an on and off valve so we can regulate the line. So we have the header hose that runs down all of them.
That's a good idea.
And then we can control. It's a wonderful system. And they don't sell this exact system anymore. We've had this system for probably, I'm gonna guess, 8 years maybe.
Longer.
Longer?
Back in Lexington.
Back in Lexington, so yeah, it's been a really long time. But they make something similar to this. And you usually get the line usually comes on a big spool, and then your header hose comes in a big round thing. And it's a wonderful, and once you use it in one garden and you move to another garden, you can get little plugs so that you can plug up your spots and readjust however you need your drip lines. Okay, my list. Let me grab my list.
These blocks that we have, I just pick them up at the dump. Someone has blocks in their front by the road. I grab them. All those bricks. Some we may have bought, but most of them we just find them.
Okay, yes, the rebar. Okay, this is the fork that I use when I'm turning a cover crop. And if anybody wants, I have a 10-minute video inside about putting in the cover crop and turning the cover crop and what I did with it. But this is a great fork to use for that because that's not so sharp that it pokes through my bottom landscape fabric. Okay, now these rebars are actually just for trellising. All this is trellis equipment, and we're going to talk about trellises down there. So let's go ahead, let's go that way, and we can shoot down to the...
I'll stick a video watching on YouTube.
Okay, so I just leave my trellising posts put up. All of the rebar is for trellising. The fence post is for trellising, and I just leave that in as permanent. So a lot of this, I'm not going to be trellising things this year in this part of the garden, but I'm not taking out my fence posting. I'm just going to leave it. All right. So this is a brand new bed that I just put in, and the dandelions have been horrendous, so that's what the Agribond is over it, just to keep the weed seeds out of it till I'm ready to plant. This bed here, where these, I call them whale bones, where these whale bones is, we got 203 pounds of sweet potatoes out of this tiny little area. Like ending here. Ending here.
Get us a plant.
203, and we didn't have this little extra part on here. I just wanted to standardize my beds to all 28 feet, so we added this last fall. So it was really where the whale bones are, 203 pounds of sweet potatoes.
Now they can see this on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's on my YouTube channel. How we harvest.
Unless they was harvesting them and pulling them out like a magician out of her hat.
I think the really severe cold weather kind of did a little bit of damage to my garlic, but I think it's going to be okay. And then that's onions after there. And then, anybody ever do potatoes in grow bags? That's an experiment this year.
That's what I'd like to try that.
Yes.
I have a question with your garlic. How do you put it out? How do you save it?
You can dry it. You got to let it dry first.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I was wondering if that's what you were doing.
I have so we'll harvest this just when the little bulbs come out. It'll probably be around June-ish. And then I pull them up and I have a garden cart that has a mesh tray, and I usually just lay it out in a cool place and I let it dry some. And then I keep some like that, and then others I slice it up and I dehydrate it and turn it into like a minced garlic instead of minced onions. Very strong, very wonderful if you like garlic.
I heard that. And also, you can make like a powder form of it. I've read that.
Yes.
And onions. You're the same with onions.
Yes.
Nothing in it. Just pure organic, good stuff.
Yep. It's amazing.
Now, when did you plant these?
I plant these in the fall,
Yeah, because
and the onions in the fall. The onions were from seed, and of course the garlic was just broken apart garlic, and that's just some random carrot that kind of didn't grow as good as I wanted to, but it's going to make it, I think. And then, use what you have. So I had some little lettuces that I wanted to put all along the end here, because this is going to be my sweet potato bed this year. So I had little lettuces that I wanted to put that would come out before the sweet potatoes get too large. And we had the hail coming in. So I had some old screens. I just put the screens over the top to keep the hail from damaging it. And so I have a whole bunch of little lettuce just along the edge. And I space it as for square foot gardening, but I didn't do a whole foot. I just did one row, so two per square foot, or per half a square foot. And then these, so in the winter when it got extremely cold, you can grow a lot of things under protection. If you have one layer of protection and it gets down to 25 or 20-ish, a little higher than 20, most of your stuff is going to make it if it's a cool weather crop. Tomatoes and peppers aren't going to grow under there, but if you have spinach or carrots or anything like that, it'll do just fine. And we just throw greenhouse plastic over it, and then we anchor it with block. And any day that it gets warm, I just uncover it. We try to keep it as cool as we can, but keep it from being damaged by the cold weather, and it works fantastic.
So do you close it up at your ends and
Yes.
secure it here?
Yes, we just put bricks, we throw the plastic over it, anchor it with bricks all the way around. And I didn't have to add any double layers this year, even though we had some sub-zero weather. We just chanced it. So we got a little yellowing, but it's all going to be okay.
So where did you, I just got introduced last year to the growing bags.
Uh-huh.
So they're online, all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are 10-gallon ones, but I'm growing Yukon Golds, which you don't keep on piling up. They're kind of more of a, from what I've learned, they're not the type of potato that you keep on adding soil.
Right,
So I
okay.
think they're going to be okay in here. I probably could have done with some 7-gallon bags. And those also have Mel's Mix in them.
That's Amazon, Leslie, where you bought them?
You know what? I think I got them from rewards on our MasterCard or something.
Okay.
Okay.
She doesn't waste
I know, it's
anything.
right on the
Some rewards
MasterCard
and you-
website, which is why we tried it. It's like, oh, free potato bags. Let's try it.
Do you ever
Okay,
plant inside the bricks, like down in here?
you could, but my watering system doesn't cover that,
Okay,
and I am a
okay.
lazy gardener.
Yeah.
To me, square foot gardening is almost as close as I'm going to get to the Garden of Eden, except moisture isn't going to come up from the ground and water my plants. So I have to figure on watering. So if I do that, I would have to hand water all of that. But I've often thought it would be really pretty.
Yeah.
So I have not that ambitious yet. Okay, trellising. If you don't have a lot of space and you want to grow plants that take up some space, this is definitely the way to go. We do our cantaloupes up here. We do our cucumbers on trellises. Of course, our tomatoes, and That works really great. But use what you have. This was someone who lived here before us had a birdhouse on this pole. Well, it became the top of our trellis. And we just put some wire in. Again, this is just over rebar. Now this one, if you have stuff that's heavy and you don't have metal, we have 1.5 inch PVC up here. Anything less than that, it's going to sag so much that it may actually come off your pole. So you need something a little bit heavier if you're just going to use something like PVC on your trellis. And then we'll just weave the mesh through the top of that and just secure our stuff on there with some agricultural
So that'd be
clips.
cantaloupe, something that heavy. We trellis the cantaloupe,
we have
right?
cantaloupes on
Yeah.
one about that heavy.
Yeah.
You can put a piece of 1 inch inside of it. That would strengthen it.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. So the more you have, right, the more you're going to have that support. But they will bow if you have, especially if you have a lot of heavy melons and things like that. Okay, let me see. Okay, quick peek in here. It's hot in here.
It's like he wanted to make sure.
So,
Did you make that?
if you can,
Yeah, my two son-in-laws.
the whalebone type
made the
things
three of
works
us.
great.
Awesome.
As you can see, this is not a kit. We have about let me see that, so 4, 5, 6, 7. We probably have about 8 feet by 14 feet. We eat out of here all winter long. It's a little sporadic here because I have pulled some things out. But we've got our cilantro, we have lettuce, we have spinach, and this spinach is getting big, but it's actually still not bad. And it's great if we cut it and chop it and freeze it. The kale, you just keep picking it and it just grows and keeps growing and keeps growing. So yeah, it's wonderful. And then carrots. The carrots will come out pretty soon too. And you can grow a ton of food in a 4x9.
Let's go get us a prayer.
A ton of food. So because the more you pick things like spinach and kale, the more it just keeps on producing.
Is this yours?
Yeah.
And then of course this, I do have a drip line. I just prefer to hand water this. That is, that is one of the problems. Once you put a roof over something, you have to water it.
So this requires more watering.
Hand watering because I'm not getting rain.
Right. Okay.
But I find in the winter, if it's cold, every 2 weeks or maybe even a little more,
Where is your water supply?
it drains.
We have a
It
hose
drains
that comes
really
down.
well. And
The
in
hose is right
here,
over there.
I
see it
line
up
these
there.
with
Yeah.
greenhouse plastic.
She puts a
That's
wand
6
on the
mil
end
plastic.
and-
Do you have a
This is
well?
6 mil plastic. And supposedly we get 4 years. We had a 4-year plastic on here, and we got 6 years out of it. We just changed this last fall, our plastic out. So even if it's a 4-year, you might get more out of it than what you think.
Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? All good. Any suggestions?
Great.
Okay. Up in the carport, I have a sheet for you that is about gardening year round. So if you're interested in gardening year round, it's a wonderful little sheet. I have the website on there because I don't have the whole year on there. I just have 2 months on there. But you can go to the Mother Earth News website and get the whole year and garden year round. And it tells you exactly when to plant, when to transplant, and when to start your seeds. So we can go head up.
Is he getting that?
I'm gonna put sunflowers in there. That's just in ground, but I like to grow sunflower shoots to eat. And so I thought,
I never thought about that.
oh, they're wonderful. So I thought I'm gonna grow my own sunflowers because the sunflower seed to grow for shoots is pretty pricey.
What do you call a sunflower shoot?
Okay, so you soak the seed. I'll show you inside because I want to show you my inside growing area, and I'll show you how I start my shoots. All right, let's go up to the that you want to do on the exact dates and everything, but I always fall back to this because it's so basic and it's You know, it gives me a general idea without me worrying, oh no, it's the 16th and I should have done it on the 9th. You know, this just gives you a general idea, and it's super handy to have. So Mother Earth News, and it's all free. So you can't beat free, right?
We do free.
We do free. Okay.
I have a question on your cover crop video. Can we view that on your YouTube? So,
You can. It's about 10 minutes. We can either watch it here or you can go on my YouTube channel, and it's 2. So the first one is I think it's just called buckwheat cover crop, and that's about 2.5 or 3 minutes long. And then I have one that's about 8 minutes long, and that's turning your cover crop. And so then we'll show you, and that's what I did last fall there, and actually I was quite surprised at how well it worked, because I hadn't really, my grow beds with the Mel's Mix have been just so good. I thought, well, you know, this stuff, some of my beds are 4, 5, 6 years old. Maybe I should be putting some cover crops in there. So buckwheat goes really, really fast. So I threw some buckwheat in, and I think it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It was up, and you want to cut it before it goes to seed. So I got out my little cutters and I cut it. I let it rest there and dry up for about a week or 2. Then I put in my legumes. Somebody gave me a whole bunch of peas, whole peas that were some food bank gave them. Planted those in there. And once they got about like this, I got that fork out and I just flipped it all upside down and covered it with the plastic. It's been sitting all winter, and you see what it looks like. It's just amazing stuff. Just amazing.
I've heard of using the buckwheat as your cover crop.
If you don't get it before those seeds drop, you have a mess. But it's a great insect, you know, brings in a lot of beneficials, and so I really like it, but you just have to stay on top of it. And really, I have 4 2x28s, so I really don't have a big area to work. You know, it's really simple to work the amount of garden that I have.
My dad we were farmers, and Daddy used to plant a cover crop. And of course, we put the cows in, and also that cover crop was also green during the winter. I forgot what it was he planted. But anyway.
Here in the south? Or was he here in the south?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in the spring he would turn it on. What was left was under. I don't know what it was. I would know.
And then did he wait for it to?
Yeah, as early as you could break the ground, and which he did it with that big turning plow.
Oh yeah, so you could do
breaking the ground. He did that.
Yeah.
And then you start doing all the other things to get prepared for the planting.
Yeah, it's so
I
cool.
forgot what the name that he used. Lespedusia, Jow, I don't know. Alfalfa, no, what alfalfa?
Alfalfa has a deep tap root, so I would not do alfalfa in my beds. I wouldn't do.
I was trying to think what it was. I don't think of it.
But if you're doing in ground, you need the heavy equipment to get that turned in. But if you're doing a cover crop in a square foot garden with the Mel's Mix, like I just did it with my fork. The Mel's Mix is so fluffy, and it was super easy to turn without any heavy equipment. So you really do save, even though it costs something to get the bed set up, you save on the equipment that you don't have to buy. So,
Hey, Leslie,
yes.
do you ever have to add Mel's Mix to your garden?
I do add Mel's Mix because it does kind of pack down when you first put it in. It's really fluffy, even if you water it. And so usually the next year it'll shrink down an inch or 2, and I will just add more. But Mel says you can just add compost if you just want to add some compost. So you can do that if you don't want to mix that more. I usually just go ahead and mix that more Mel's Mix because I just love it. It works so good. All right. If you want to see my indoor starting area, and someone wanted to know about sunflower shoots, I'll show you how to do that inside. And then we'll pull out some refreshments if you all want to stay and linger and eat and talk. Okay, come on. Let me see. I have a paper right here somewhere. That's hydroponic stuff. Hold on a second, I do have it.
I found mine on Amazon, LED grow lights.
That's basically what these are. I do have the name of them right here. And you like them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got the ultraviolet and the, whatever, the other light that you have to have at home.
Thank you.
Amazon.
Yeah, here's the ones that I have. And of course it comes with instructions. And then we close this room off pretty much in when it's really cold and the wood stove is cranking. So I do have a little heat mat that I put under my tomatoes until they germinate. And that just gets about 10 degrees warmer than the air. It's not super hot, but it's enough of a kickstart to get my tomatoes and my peppers going if they're cool. And then someone was asking about sunflower shoots and pea shoots. So if you liked, I'm sure you've all heard of growing like sprouts before, alfalfa sprouts in a jar. And then you're eating the whole root and everything. But when you grow shoots, you actually are letting the plants grow to about this tall, and then you just cut them at the ground level. And I usually use these trays, but I've used just plain old flats before that have little holes in them for growing. And I soak my sunflowers or my peas or whatever shoots I'm making. And then with these, I don't need any soil.
Wow.
So in the past, I've had to use a growing mix. And I think, yeah, I mean, it doesn't go to waste. I throw it in my compost. But every time you do a tray of shoots, I hate to use all that stuff. So with these, I soak my pea shoots or my sunflower seeds for about 6 hours. And then I spread them on here. And then I take this bucket with the bricks in it, and I put it on top. I put another tray, and I put it on top, and I weight it down with the 2 bricks in it until the sunflower shoots are pushing the bricks up. And then once they're they're up, they're kind of curved, and they're pushing up those bricks. When you take that off and you get them under light, they just spring right up and grow, and then you have them in it's usually about a week or 10 days. And then I would just, I can just take this off and just run them under my kitchen spigot there to keep them moist, and then just put them in here.
And you said you eat the shoot.
What do? You just eat them just
like salad greens. So I add them to our, of course we have all our greens in our greenhouse, so we usually have spinach or kale, and then we add some of these in it and any other vegetables that we want to add to our salad. They're kind of buttery. The sunflower shoots are kind of buttery flavor. I went to an agricultural conference in January, and they had sunflower shoot salads for sale. I was like, oh, those are so good. And you need kind of a strong salad dressing, so they had a tahini dressing on, and it was very nice.
Oh, good.
So I came home and started growing them and really like them. They're really good.
You got a video on that? Growing shoots?
Not yet.
Please do.
But they're probably out there.
That was your suggestion.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Gwen has a
You have
suggestion.
sunflower seeds on so they can like.
You want to see the sunflower seeds? Sure, hold on.
Okay. And you get these from where?
I'm going to be honest, honestly transparent here. So when I went to this agricultural convention down in Texas, they had big flats full of these beautiful sunflower shoots that they were selling for salads. And so I was like, how did you grow these? You know, it must be wicked expensive to produce all that. And he goes, I use birdseed. Black oil birdseed. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. So I sterilized them. You know, I soaked them with a little HP. And then I drained that off. And then I soaked them and I did them. But then I thought, well, that's going to be offensive to some people.
So if we wanted to co-op, you can get those bird seeds for like 25 pounds. Or whatever thing we could co-op.
So
And
these bird seeds here?
Actually, I said, you know what? If I'm going to bring them to Fellowship Lunch at church or anything like that, I better use something that's made just for sprouting. So I did go ahead and, but you know, this is
Still the same.
like $12 versus $12 for 25 pounds. So I thought, I try it all. So I'm
And how many do you sprout at one time in that tray?
Okay, in a tray like this, I would use about 2/3 of a cup, and so it's pretty packed when you spread them all out. But if you don't spread them out, they're not going to be strong enough to push this up, and that weight makes the seeds think they're pushing up through the ground, if you-
Okay.
and they get more dense. So
Okay.
you get a better product out of them.
So those two trays come together like that, or you?
Yeah, I set of 5. I got them on Amazon,
Okay.
and I had them for years, and I didn't know what to do with them, but I'm too cheap to throw them away. And then finally, I said I'm going to
Oh,
try these
wow.
sunflower shoot things. So they worked really great, and that's that.
Good.
Wow.
Now, when did you start those sweet potatoes?
These are from my garden, so they've been wrapped up, and I just put them under the lights here about a week ago. And I have a thing on my YouTube channel on how to grow your own sunflower shoots. Sweet potato shoots.
Okay.
So these will grow the long vines, and then you can just snip them in sections of about 6 or 8 inches long, and then I just put them in a little water till they just barely root, and then I plant them. So those are garnets. Some of the best I used to grow Beauregards all the time, but I really like these garnets. It was all I could find last year. At Whole Foods, I bought a garnet sweet potato and sprouted it and grew these, and then these will grow our crop this year.
Now, those were left over from last year, right, Leslie?
Yeah.
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 Years ago, of course, I grew up on a farm, and we used to save our roots, not the big potato, but the little roots that are like so, dry them. And then in the early spring, probably, I'm saying around February, Daddy would make this little small bed out of sawdust. And we put those roots in there and covered it with sawdust. And then you had all of these little sprouts that came up. And then we pulled those little plants off, and you could sell them. People would buy them, like.
People still buy them.
And, I mean, back.
And it's
My daddy did
expensive.
produce, so we did these little seagrass strings around somewhere 25 and above.
Yeah.
And go with that, selling that at the market, it's a way of
Participate.
living.
I volunteered.
But then we had a big potato patch too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I volunteered at a garden in Germantown a
But
couple
you could
years
save.
ago, and he said there was a 90-something-year-old man that used to sell these, and he stopped, and nobody knew where to buy sweet potato shoots.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've ordered them online,
Yeah.
and you get these kind of sickly looking things that
Yeah.
that they do come back. They're amazingly
Yeah.
hardy, but it's easy just to start your own, and it's cheaper too.
And so out of those 3 potatoes, you'll get those what you say, you got 100 and something pounds?
I got out of 2 potatoes last year, I only planted about 18 shoots, and then I got 203 pounds of potatoes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
It sure is.
And then you got to cure them. And I have a YouTube on how to cure them, because if you don't cure them right, they're not sweet. So you can use your rack here to cure them. I'll show you how to do that.
Talk about the cover crop. I thought of the name of it.
What is it?
No, I just forgot it.
It's gonna come to you.
Veg.
Veg.
And
Hairy
it's got all
veg.
Well, it was the agricultural variety, but it's like the crown veg,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's got all these little roots that go down and produce the oxygen. I mean the nitrogen to turn
Makes
over
great
for next
stuff.
year.
Yeah.
How you spell it?
VETCH.
VETCH,
Okay.
veg.
Okay.
That's very meshed all together.
Right.
If I was a commercial grower, I'd probably use it. I'd be a little afraid if I had to turn it with a fork.
Right. Well, they, of course, the cows would graze it. That was the thing that we did. We kind of doubled up on,
Yeah, well, then you get the manure from the cows.
and then you got
it
the
was a
top and
win-win.
then turned it over because it produced the nitrogen.
That's so good. Yeah, many ways to skin this cat.
They did everything.
All righty,
Hey, buddy.
well, I'm going to put out some refreshments, and y'all can share all your wonderful ideas. And you can sit inside, you can sit outside, whatever you'd like.